Hello, beloveds. My name is Evonne Wildheart, and this is the cycle report for the 2nd of October 2019. I stand here in Dja Dja Wurrung country in Central Highlands, Victoria, Australia, in the Southern Hemisphere. So we are a week and a half away from Spring Equinox. So Spring Equinox being the point in the whole cycle of the Earth cycle where daylight hours and nighttime hours are exact. Now that lasted for it was a moment in time, and now we've moved through it, and now again we have more daylight hours than nighttime hours. So we are on the ascent up to summer solstice, which is the longest daylight hours in the whole entire Earth cycle. In the Northern Hemisphere, they're on the descent into winter solstice. But before then, we are heading towards Beltane, the cross quarter, which represents in pagan terms, and on this land too, is the high point of spring, and we move into the summer period. So it's like the unofficial start of summer, which is on October the 31st. As opposed to the Northern Hemisphere, which they're on a descent, and their October the 31st is actually Samhain or Halloween, and it's all about the death and dying. But on this land at the moment, what we are actually doing too is related to the letting go and the shedding. So we are pulling weeds from our garden because they've just gone crazy because of all the rain that we've had this winter and the sunlight. And so we've got more daylight hours. So everything is growing really, really. So it's a time of growth. But we have to pull out the weeds too, to allow the things that we want to grow into fullness. Be able to do that. So there's a lot of letting go. We are burning off, all the debris that we have gained throughout the winter, so we can make our, properties safe. Because here in Australia we have a lot of risk of fire when we live in bushland, and so there's a lot of burning off. There's snakes that are starting to come out, so there's this shedding of skin. So it's all about this time is about shedding, pulling weeds, and burning off. So it's a type of letting go too. So we are letting go to growth, as opposed to the Northern Hemisphere, they are letting go to descend, which is interesting. So if you look at this wheel that we have, this map that we have, so it's equivalent this time of year. So the Spring Equinox moving into Beltane is all about the adolescent. So Bill Plotkin, who talks about human development, not in chronological age, but spiritual and social, spiritual map of the human development wheel. And he would say that at this time, and it's also, this is the rite of passage into adulthood. So we have to, the map would be that an adolescent time is all about the underworld. So the letting go of the child so they can step forth and become fully adults. Here in our Western culture, in which I live in, we don't have a rites of passage. Well, we do. But what it literally looks like, and what it was for me, was a really messy, toxic, alcohol-fueled, rites of passage into feeling really awkward, and the medicine was toxicity. Instead of looking at the descent or the journey of letting go in the underworld as an experience to be embracive of, and to honor, and to understand that it's actually about letting go of the child and moving into an adult phase and being held in that. I think that's what we lack in our Western cultures, being held or given the map that this is really what it is. So, and what happens, what we are not, because we don't have that information, although that map of descending and growth and letting go, is that, our neurons in our brain, human conditioning is very much fixated on familiarity. So the way that our neurons in our brain, our thought patterns are created, that it gets used to a certain pattern of thought. And so when we start to shift that, it becomes really uncomfortable and awkward. And I think that is adolescence. And that's really any growth that we go to, whether it be a body growth or a spiritual growth or whatever. It's a point that can be really uncomfortable and really awkward. And that's because our brain is so wired to be in the familiar. And so when we start to move and make new neuron pathways, it takes a while to get them firing, like the pattern, and getting used to that pattern again. So really, this is what it's about. It's letting go of old ways. So shedding, letting go, pulling out the old weeds that we don't want to take with us, really, so we can step into more wholeness and more fully open and our heart space open. But there needs to come with that a bit of an underworld journey to let go or burn off or shed the things that we can't take with us in this new way of being. So, I think what we need to do as a culture is really educate people or hold people through, especially these young people, these adolescents coming through, and that's why it's great to get young girls and young women into red tent circles so they can be held with such love while they go through this, the pruning off of neurons and that awkwardness that comes with adolescence. And just because, people are adults, it still doesn't mean they've gone through that descent either of adolescence. So often what happens, and it's certainly the case for me, is that having to go, I get to a certain phase. So I got up to age 36 and go, oh shit, I still carry my maiden with me, and so what has happened in the last 4 years is a lot of, letting go and, dropping the seed pod on the ground into sacred compost and gathering my maiden seeds with me. And so I can, and it's a lot of shedding and letting go so I can step into, the full mother that I am, or the full adult that, is required of me right now as, our planet is in an intensive care state, really. So, more calling up of people to step into their full adult and to shed their adolescent seed pod that they have, but gathering the seeds of what the adolescence meant and what your childhood meant, like fun and play and intrigue and all these great seeds that it's great to hold us, but to carry the woundings that occurred during that time no longer serves when we are fully stepping into our full power. So we can't really do that and step into our full power until we have let go of, the woundings from our childhood and our maidenhood, or a young man. So that's that. We are in a first quarter moon. No, not even first quarter moon. Like the crescent moon, like the first little moon that comes in our cycle, and it's like this little slither that we see in our skies, and it's usually setting around sunset. And we move into a first quarter moon on this coming Monday. So this crescent moon is all about the newness and the what seeds are you bringing in for this moon cycle. Which is great to talk about this at Spring Equinox, about, the newness and what seeds are we going to plant for this growing season that is, coming into summer. So it feels like a really potent time to, we're in the middle of a fertility season. So it's great to be planting and thinking about what seeds that we want to carry forth into this Beltane period, which is all about sacred union. And my personal cycle, I am day 16. So this part of the cycle is the wisdom of the cycle. So all the wisdom that I've gathered in this last 16 days is starting to come through. So it's the harvest period. And I feel very clear, still coming off the ovulation. So my experience of that is feeling good in my body. And that is the cycle report for today. Just a quick note, I have just released my new workshop, Rites of Passage, Death of the Maiden, Rites of Passage into Motherhood. The links are down below. That is both online and they'll be on the 26th of October. It'll be down in Central Highlands, along with the School of Shamanic Womancraft, which is a school that I love and deeply a part of, connecting with the shamanic dimensions of pregnancy, and that is with amazing midwife Mary Louise Lepere. So much love from my heart to your heart. May your first crescent and your seedings and your letting go and your shedding be easeful and beautiful and filled with so many good things to help you expand into heart space love for the good of yourself and everybody around you and for the planet. Thank you for listening. Oh, and a quick send out to all the beautiful mermaids out there and all those that I danced with at the Witches' Ball at the Mer Conference. It was so friggin' awesome. I'm still on a high from that. Thank you for listening. See you later.